Hello, everyone. We have an incredible guest today. Susanna Holt has a PhD. She is the CTO of OLI and spent years at Autodesk. And I'm just so excited to have you on this podcast today because you've been driving change in AI in your organization, and I want to hear all about it. So thank you so much.
First of all, thank you, Vicky, for inviting me and for inviting me to talk about this topic. So AI is super close to my heart, and I'm really excited that as a human, I'm living through this time of extraordinary change, which has all this promise and all this fear and threat and uncertainty around it. It's a privilege to be living through it and a privilege to be talking with you about it.
It is such a privilege. I feel exactly the same way as you. I mean, we're going through this massive change. I feel like with internet we had change, right? And we had time to adjust. We had like 30 years plus. And now AI is just every day there's something new and exciting and changing. And we're all wondering, how do we incorporate it into our work? How do we incorporate it with our conversations with customers? How are you approaching that in your organization?
Yes, this is a pet topic of mine. And I will say a lot of this started before I even joined OLI. And I feel OLI has done this in a particularly clever way. And the way it started out is that we started something called an AI exploratorium. So this was a meeting every 2 weeks led by the CEO, and I think this is important, and attended by senior leadership, so sort of showing how much this mattered to the company. Which, at the other end of the spectrum, the CEO could have said, just everyone go and engage with AI. But no, he was involved, he was putting time into it, he put thought into every meeting before the meeting. And on the face of it, what it was really people came along with their latest ideas of what they'd done with AI. They might show something off that they'd done, they might talk about something, they might post an article in the chat that was interesting to them. And that sort of set the tone for, as a company, we're on this AI journey together. And it is a journey, right? And we're figuring it out as we go along. And there was huge energy and enthusiasm behind that.
How did he prepare for the meetings? I'm always wondering, what that preparation process looks like. What kind of ideas were brought forward?
Well, it helps that he really loves technology and he loves AI. So in some sense, I'm going to guess on his behalf that it wasn't really a lot of preparation. He'd see an interesting article, he'd see something on Twitter, he'd post it in the chat. But these things always look casual when you're in the moment. They always take thought. And to me, that's an indication of he realized, well, first of all, he really cared. He also realized the importance of showing leadership here. Not just showing up and saying, okay, people, impress me, tell me what you've done. But it wasn't like that at all. It was really, he'd done some work, and as often as not, he'd done more work, not as often as not, but it happened that he would have done more work than others, whereas the rest of us, you can hide in a crowd and hope that someone else has a good idea. He never had that privilege. And the fact that he put that effort in, it tells the rest of us something, and I think that was super powerful.
Because he kind of set the stage.
He set the stage, yes. So things people came up with, because it's important as I sort of think through the journey that OLI is on in the AI context. A lot of, it would come from all over the business. So it'd be maybe someone from the legal team would use large language model to process long documents, get a summary of it. And this is like the perfect thing, right? You're not relying on any accuracy from large language models. We know we shouldn't be doing that, but you're helping yourself along the way. Or the HR team might come up with some process and put it through ChatGPT to get or any other language model to get an opinion on how one might best structure this. The software developers were using Claude code to write documentation for code that had been lying stale for ages and nobody really knew what it was doing anymore or why. Marketing people would, someone from the marketing team pulled together curated news for his needs every day using AI. Or people who did training would get help with their training materials. So loads of different ideas, and also hearing from other people what their ideas were. It sort of triggers something in your brain to think, now that I could try this. Because when you're on your own, you can think, I don't know what to do, and get all these doubts creeping in. I think it was such a fertile environment, if you like. But one thing you will probably notice is these were all internal projects, right? They were all improving our productivity. And of course, that's great for customers too. If we're more productive, that's good for our customers. It was all internal facing. And that transition from internal projects to something that directly impacts customers, that's a whole lot more difficult and complicated and has more potential risk that needs to be taken into consideration.
Absolutely. And this is where you probably get more into inference, right? And really building new small models that specifically address the customer needs, which is very different than using kind of generative AI for productivity improvements.
I actually, yes, definitely. And there's a step in between the two. You know, if you're using something that's already out there, large language models mostly, or Claude Code or things like that, and building your own models, in between there's other tools that you can use without getting into the awkwardness of should we be using our customer data for trainings? Most of us are we're quite happy to use other people's data for the tools, but we don't necessarily want our own data used. And our customers are exactly the same. So there's things in between where we can use AI to help us without compromising customer data and still giving them a better outcome. And that's an area that is sort of the next stage along the journey for me.
Tell me more about that, because that's an area I think most people don't really talk about a lot. It's that, tell me how you're addressing it. Like, what are some use cases?
Yeah, so without wanting to give away too much of
Sure.
OLI's IP, but what I can say is, you know, OLI is a historically, sorry, our mode, our business mode is really accuracy of our predictions around chemical engineering. And with accuracy, when you're doing computations, comes, well, it's not speedy, right? It can be quite slow at times. And our customers would like their results a little bit faster, and they still want them to be accurate.
Sure.
And this is where I think we have this magic sweet spot, you know, where the AI can come in and help us get a calculation faster, or get a result faster, I should say. And then we still use our science-based, rigorous knowledge or software to make sure that what comes out at the other end is actually accurate. So then we get the best of both worlds. And this is us sort of transitioning into projects that help customers directly. So it's not just our own productivity we're improving, but our customers' productivity, which is what we
I
want to
really
do.
love that. Um, I read this AI engineering book and it talked about QA agents. So, as you talked about accuracy, I just thought of that because a lot of it is AI testing AI. Like, if you want to get to more accuracy, it's sometimes hard to do just with humans alone. Obviously, you have to have some rigor there, but how do you deploy QA AI agents into the workflow that kind of do that rapid testing to make sure your probability rate is higher accuracy, I guess?
Yes, and for us, we would always want extremely high. So, sorry, let me step back a little bit. I think this AI, testing AI or validating AI is a really valuable tool.
Yeah,
You're never going to, well, you can't be certain that you're going to get complete accuracy there, but you can certainly increase it at relatively low cost and certainly low human cost for that. And I think that has high value. On the testing front, I think that, and there's some great startups out there who are developing tools along those lines, you know, where they can help you with testing. So you wouldn't, I mean, their commitment is, at least for unit testing, that you can give them your, whatever it is you want to have tested, and they will use AI to create your tests.
very
I'm not
nice.
aware of anyone who's quite at the workflow testing stage yet, which is the much harder thing to develop,
Sure.
but I have no doubt it will come. And
Yeah,
then what that means, in my mind, is we still have this need for humans who do testing, right? But they do the thinking.
yeah,
They do the clever bit and the AI does the legwork. In fact, one thing that occurs to me as we're talking is sometimes, you know, this worry about losing our jobs to AI, and the
yeah,
headlines are
of
all full of
course.
that stuff. I feel OLI has done a really good job with this approach of first we use tools internally, you know, we get some familiarity with them. And that has shown every one of us that OLI isn't eliminating my role or my job. It just does certain things better and faster than I do.
Yeah.
I'm still needed, as is everyone else, to do the clever bit, to do the human bit. And it's, yeah, I think it was unnecessary for us to be so intimidated by the power of OLI. And I think we've had the gloom and doom headlines maybe influence us more than we really needed to have happen.
Well, as humans, we're not built for so much change that's happening so rapidly, right? Like that brings up fear, and we have all the movies we've seen with Arnold Schwarzenegger is Hasta la vista, baby. That resonates in everybody's mind as they think about AI taking over, right? So there's a lot of, maybe negative predisposition that was built up by Hollywood and other ways that people are like, oh my God, this is the end of it. But I think in the future, to your point, it's amazing what we will be able to do, right? And we can kind of explore that. Tell me more about that.
I too am having to learn to offload things onto AI. And honestly, for me, some of the stuff that I'm now asking AI to do, it was a bit like a security blanket for me. So it's like when everything got too much, I knew how to write a good email or how to compile my notes or how to plan a meeting. And I just go and do this thing that I knew how to do pretty well or was confident in. And now that goes off to AI and I don't have to do that anymore. So where do I go when I feel it's all too much, right?
Yeah.
And I'm having to develop a new skill, which is really, well, if it's all too much, maybe go for a walk and don't do some work that AI can do for you. And that's hard for me, right? Because to some extent, I define myself, for better or for worse, around the work that I do. And if I don't do work because AI is doing it for me, that's a change. And that comes to the point you made earlier, Vicky, about we're just not good at fast change. And we have to help ourselves and one another get through that. And
Yeah.
you mentioned earlier the internet change. So I'm old enough to have lived through that. But I remember that wasn't that threatening. I mean, now looking back, it feels like it was snail's pace. It probably didn't feel like that at the time. I mean, I remember receiving my first email, and that was kind of okay. Or other things to do, I don't know, making my first internet purchase. Or I don't actually remember that, but I must have happened at some point. And it wasn't that scary. But now it's just coming much faster than I'm used to. But then I'm also older. So maybe for young people, it's not. Well, in fact, I know that for young people, it's not that. They just take it all in their stride, right?
Well, they do. And I think there's also predisposition from teachers not to encourage sometimes to use AI. I know with my kids in school, they're like, oh, don't use it. You're going to get in trouble if you use ChatGPT to help you with your homework. So I've been honestly just encouraging my kids. My daughter has a ChatGPT Pro subscription. I'm like telling my son, I'm like, hey, I can teach you how to use it to prep for your tests so you can do better on your tests. So I feel like there's more needed there because because of the change, there's almost like resistance, like almost some sort of pride, like, oh, we don't let our kids use AI in the schools. And I'm like, well, you're actually preventing them to embrace the change that's going to be part of their life, and you're not doing them any favors. So that's the change. That's the education system is changing quickly, and we haven't really changed it in since 1800s, so it's hard.
About time too. I
It's
mean, on the
about
topic
time.
of pride, I used to be super proud of my ability to write good emails, and this is no longer a required skill. And yeah, that's a threat of sorts, isn't it?
It is. It is. Claude does an amazing job writing anything, right? Like
Yeah.
yeah. Yeah, emails, and we use that in sales all the time to write emails to our customers, to communicate internally. So you're right. How do you say it's okay? Like it's okay to give up that skill, right? Like it's okay not, that I don't do that anymore because now I can do the thinking about, how to make OLI more successful with our customers and the tools that they need.
And staying on the topic of emails, of course, we don't want them to sound, for whatever reason, we don't want them to sound as if they came out of a large language model. And so then the skill is to avoid that, either through clever use of prompts or through some post-editing that we apply to it. So that really shifts our skills to somewhere else. I know in the early days, when, I don't know what, Outlook offered to review your emails for it, I would sort of say yes, and then it
Yeah.
made a change, and I took it back out again. Often it was a good change, of course. The balance has shifted, right? I would write it, Outlook would review it, and now it's gone the other way around. I let the
Yeah,
large
you're
language
reviewing
model write
instead of
it,
writing.
and I review it, so it really is personal. And I want to show the recipient, just as I want to be shown, that it has been personalized for me, that I'm
Sure.
not receiving the same email as everyone else.
Yeah, because people still want to see that because at the end of the day, you're writing an email to a person, not to a bot, right?
Yes, yeah, yeah.
And I wonder how that's going to change. Is like how much of our communication will in corporate will remain email versus transition to other sources. I'm not exactly sure.
Well, this is such a big question, Vicky. I mean, how is our interaction with software? How's that going to change with AI? I mean, it's got to this intermediate step. I mean, I worked with software where you had a command line a long time ago, but still.
Yeah.
And then we have pull down menus, but now we're clearly moving towards natural language and spoken language. If we sort of go down maybe the Terminator or the brain implant route, maybe I just have to think what I want and it happens on my
Yeah.
screen. Maybe I'm not even looking at a screen anymore. And of course, there were glasses, but I mean,
Now they're talking about
well,
voice becoming the main way of communication. Like that's what a lot of AI companies are betting on is voice communication,
yeah.
where you don't even have to type.
But there's a time and a place for that, right? Yeah, just like I use my phone for certain things and my laptop for other things.
Yeah,
And I've never quite gone away from, yeah, sometimes I just want the real estate that a bigger screen gives me. Some things are much better on the phone. And in
of
the
course.
same way, voice interaction is going to be great for some things, but maybe I won't always use it in public settings.
Yeah, that's very true.
Although, let me share with you a story that I recently heard that I found amusing. So, I live in the Bay Area at the moment. In San Francisco, we have Waymos, driverless taxis.
Sure.
Rumor has it that people are taking Waymos rather than other form of transport because then they can talk to their phone without the embarrassment of having someone, the driver, listen to them. I
Interesting.
mean, isn't that interesting? So we talk to our phones, of course, that is unsurprising, but we are embarrassed to have the drive. I mean, sometimes it'll be confidential stuff, that'll be
Sure.
different. But there's also this human threshold, right? Well,
We're not embarrassed in front of AI, but we're embarrassed in front of another
yeah,
human.
yeah. And I wonder, yeah, it's just super interesting. Maybe we won't be embarrassed in front of other humans anymore in the not too distant
Well,
future.
they say now that ChatGPT knows more about you than your closest family member. People share all kinds of things with ChatGPT as a therapist slash, best friend. I got really worried when Snapchat, which is a tool that the kids use
Yeah.
to, find each other, the friend added, like AI friend that was added there that the kids could interact with. And so my daughter was like, "Oh, this guy, he keeps like using the word poop, as he talks to it and makes up all this kind of stuff, little kids." But I'm like, you realize like all that stuff is being recorded, like you shouldn't really be using it in that way. But it almost like, I don't want to talk to my friend, I'm gonna talk to my Snapchat AI friend about this, which I found like I don't know, it's strange and at a time when kids are growing and they should be making friends and they should be figuring out how to deal with other humans. They're
Yeah.
relying on AI friends.
Yeah, oh, absolutely. Nothing in my mind replaces. I mean, okay, let me say it this way. I am really an introvert, and at the same time, nothing replaces human interaction. And
Sure.
I don't want my introversion drive me towards using AI as
Yeah.
as an interaction point. But it's different for me, right? I've lived a life of AI not existing, so it's the temptation is much lower for me. I know the value I get out of the potential discomfort of interacting with real humans.
Yeah.
Kids can't know that yet. Those are the worrying aspects of AI.
They are, I think, because we still need our communities, we still need to have families. I think all those structures that we kind of put in place, like they were meant to kind of give you that, I don't know, for like, not tradition, but consistency, like this comfort that, that you can kind of deal with change. I think if you don't have those things and you're just in this constant mode of change and you only have AI friends, it's very hard.
But we'll see. We'll see what the future will bring. It's going to
Yeah.
be interesting, and I can't possibly predict it.
You've been in engineering for a very long time, and what is your perspective on vibe coding and just in general using AI for coding and how that's gonna continue to evolve?
Yes, again, I can't predict the future, much as I wish I could. Vibe coding has been a super powerful tool. I think, particularly, to some extent, I see us, with the help of AI, turning a lot of us more into generalists. So I mentioned earlier, the legal person can ask AI to review legal documents. Well, I can do that too.
Hmm.
It's probably not as good as a legal expert doing it, but it's a start. And vibe coding has done something similar. It has allowed non-software developers, so people without years of experience, to code something up. And I've seen some really great examples in the realm of product management, where a product manager, instead of PowerPoint slides and words and all the things, can vibe code something up and show the customer or the software developers, this is what I want. And
Yeah,
then we're having a much more tangible conversation because we can see what it is. Now,
sure.
there's risk, there's always a risk. One risk is that people confuse the vibe coded product, if I can call it that, the vibe coded output, let's go with that, with the real product and think, okay, well, it's done, let's go sell it next week, kind of thing. And there is a big gap with all the AI between the vibe coded and the real thing. Some of the gap has gotten bigger because it's not just coding it up in a way that it actually works and doesn't just look as if it worked, but also the security risks increase dramatically as you use AI. And honestly, I don't think we really understand in what way the cybersecurity risks, in what way they increase and how to caveat against them. So that's something that's really on my mind.
Yeah.
So, we have the promise of the brilliant product really early, and that's good because it informs better conversations. But the distance between that promise and the actual product is bigger than it seems at first sight. I think that is a big challenge around it. And the other thing that I don't have an answer to in the connection with vibe coding is the tech debt that it accumulates. So software development teams always accumulate tech debt, and that is okay because writing software perfectly from the word go isn't really possible because the goal tends to change. So, and it's not really desirable because it's not efficient. So we always set aside time with our software development teams for tidying up that technical debt. There'll be some proportion of the time that every developer spends is then somehow dedicated to tech debt. Now with vibe coding, we get a hell of a lot more tech debt. I mean, it's just crazy. Should I worry about that accumulating to a stage that we can never tidy it up? Or maybe I shouldn't worry because no human will ever have to look at it again. If I assume that no human ever has to look at it again, it's just AI dealing with its own code, the size of the tech debt doesn't matter because AI can deal with unlimited or close, theoretically to practically unlimited amounts, of course, of code. But what if a human does have to go in and fix a bug that somehow the AI can't fix? The
Yeah.
more vibe-coded stuff we have there, the harder that will become. So that's, as a CTO, it's my responsibility to think about that and to mitigate the risks on either side. It's tricky. It's a thin line, and the dangers will change as time goes by.
You bring up a great point around security, and I think about it a lot because it's something that I do a lot with other customers. And I think the security landscape is becoming more and more dangerous. I mean, it's not even the code, sometimes it's the APIs, around the code that we have our customers or our partners access. Those are really the ones that I kind of worry about the most because they provide the biggest attack surface, essentially where bots can, steal your PII information or potentially your secret sauce, right? Just by accessing your systems, traversing them. So yeah, I don't think it's ever going to be AI alone, but AI will have to be incorporated more and more to fight, whether it's security, looking for security inadequacies, or to look at the code to make sure that AI could have included a library that now exposes your entire right? Because like randomly from some, yeah, we've seen those types of attacks where it opens up a back door and you don't even know about it because you didn't know it included that library, that's free, but now is exposed to all kinds of.
Yeah. It's scary and it's interesting, right, to see how it'll play out. The other thing that's making the risk greater is that it's become so much easier to be a hacker. You don't have to be that smart anymore.
Yeah.
And there's a whole business around it, just
And
like
it's
you and
cheap.
I work for businesses, it's cheap. So
Yeah. For $1,000, you can have all the information about your competitors, right? Like you can, it's just so cheap.
yeah,
I'm looking at some like retail internet sites right now where 60% of traffic is from bots. 60 to 80%, it's not human traffic. So we've designed these amazing internet sites for humans, and we spend so much on design and interface, and bots don't care about any of that. They just want to see structured schema data and quick results, right? They just want to scan it. They don't care about performance. All that time we used to spend on how
yeah.
does my page perform? How fast does it load? How does it appear? Like none of that matters anymore for bots. And so you have high infrastructure costs with low return on investment because you're really supporting it for your bots versus your customers.
Yes, it's a crazy time. On the other hand, every time new technology comes along, we are prone to predicting gloom and doom and how awful it's going to be. A lot of that doesn't play out.
Yeah,
And the things that do play out are not always the ones we predicted, which
for sure.
I don't want to suggest that we should be complacent on the grounds of, oh, it's just all naysayers. There's really something there, and I really worry about it. But whether that in the end will turn out to be the real danger or the real risk, who's to tell? We'll find out.
No, we don't know, but we get to watch.
Get to watch, and I'm enjoying the journey.
Yeah, just enjoying the journey. Susanna, this was so incredible. So many great insights. How can people reach out to you? How can they connect? What can they do next?
Well, first of all, thanks, Vicky, for inviting me. I really enjoyed this conversation. And find me on LinkedIn, and if you reach out and send me a message, I will reply.
You've been so responsive. Thank you so much. What's the next book or project you're taking on that we should follow along?
It's going to be making OLI software, enhancing it with AI so that it'll run faster, better, and serve our customers better. And I'm really excited about making that reality because there's the product thing, there's the journey. I like the journey. And then there's the bringing the people along, which I absolutely love.
I love that. I know you're going to be super successful because you have the right approach. And I can't wait to see it. Thank you so much again.
Thanks, Vicky. It's very enjoyable.